Hi everyone, my name is Caroline. I am a registered dietitian turned physician assistant, and the purpose of today's video is to talk about my number one asked question all the time is what my journey was like from going from registered dietitian, practicing in a clinical field, to going back to school full time to sort of reinvent myself to become a PA. So let's dive in. So I am actually a brand new grad PA. I graduated just a few months ago. If you're watching now, the date is February 9th, 2024. And so I've not even yet started my first job as a PA, but I will make lots more videos about the process, life after PA school, if you will. But that's not the purpose of today's video. I want to dive in and really talk about the evolution that I had going from a practicing clinical nutrition provider to deciding to go back to school. It did not come without hardships and bumps along the road, but I'm really happy that I did it and I have zero regrets. Full disclosure, moving forward as a practicing PA, I fully intend on maintaining my registered dietitian nutritionist credential, RDN. If you're a dietitian watching this, you know how hard it is to achieve those letters, all the hoops you have to go through. So that's definitely something I'm passionate about keeping and maintaining. There's lots of things in the behind the scenes that you have to do, and like CEUs, money for license renewal and things. But it's worth it to me. So it's always been my intention as a PA to also find a role or a job that also utilizes my strong nutritional background as well. So that was always in the back of my mind when choosing a position or a specialty as a new grad. And again, I'll make a video about my new job as a new grad PA and what I'll be working in a little bit later. So if you're watching this video, you're most likely a registered dietitian who maybe doesn't quite feel fulfilled in your current role. You feel like you could be doing more, maybe you don't really feel appreciated or recognized to the level that you feel you deserve in your current clinical role, and you at the same time love the clinical aspect of what you do and want to just dive deeper. That's how I was feeling when I was in your position, but I want to kind of rewind a little bit and walk you through really the timeline for my decision to go to PA school. And it starts with my dietetic internship. So for those of you who might not be dietitians or maybe pre-dietitians or something of that nature, and you don't know what a dietetic internship is, I've made lots of videos on this, but essentially it's a supervised clinical practice opportunity after graduation. So after your undergraduate degree is completed, you go on to complete a dietetic internship, which is 1,200 or more hours of supervised clinical practice as a medical nutrition provider. I make this similarity of the dietetic internship to a physician residency program. And fun fact, dietitians actually, at least they used to, use the same matching system and software that physician residents use to match to their residency program. So in a lot of ways, there are similarities. I matched at the Minneapolis VA Medical Center, and I was really blessed because that was one of the only paid dietetic internship programs. That was my top choice, and I was just fortunate to match there. This is where I felt I first got interested in the greater world of medicine and not only clinical nutrition. And that was because I found myself being exposed to a lot of the medical side. So I remember I had opportunities like being able to observe open heart surgery as a dietetic student, which I thought was just kind of crazy. My capstone sort of final project was actually in partnership and in tandem with the autopsy department and a pathologist. I did that project on a patient who had toxic megacolon who was receiving TPN, or total parenteral nutrition therapy, that the dietitians were managing. So lots of opportunities where I just sort of rubbed elbows with either physicians or surgeons, and just got exposure to the medical side. And all the while during my internship, one of my preceptor's wives was a practicing dietitian at the time, and she at that time decided to go on to PA school. And so I saw her and I really looked up to her, and I thought, that's really cool that she's deciding to reinvent herself. And that's just where the idea or the seed got planted, if you will. Then fast forward to my first job, yay, as a registered dietitian. I actually got a job at a children's hospital. I worked in pediatrics for the entirety of my career. And my first role was as a dietitian in the outpatient world for ped subspecialty clinics, everything from GI to endo. But then a main portion of my job was to be the dietitian for the accredited cystic fibrosis center. And so in that job, again, I had a lot of opportunity for exposure to the more medical side of things. As an RD for a CF clinic, you're going to be in charge of making recommendations and dosing for pancreatic enzyme replacement therapy. We would round as a team together every week and go over things like chest x-rays, PFT results, which are lung function tests for patients. And so I had this really great collaborative working relationship with the physicians on the team, and I was blessed to feel really supported and recognized as an important team member of that greater multidisciplinary team. So in a way, it seems kind of backwards because I was really happy in my role. I was learning a ton, way more than I ever did in school, but there was that sort of fire that got lit in me, and I just saw myself wanting more. I was so young in my role, but yet I was really practicing at the top of my license, the top of my scope as a dietitian, and I was still wanting more. And I thought, wow, this is like my first job and I'm already feeling this way. I don't know, maybe a red flag. So I actually transitioned to a new job. I got a job, I got hired at the Mayo Clinic, and by pure coincidence, the role at Mayo Clinic was like identically the same as what I was doing at this smaller children's hospital in Iowa. So super, super coincidental. It was almost as if the stars aligned because, again, I was going to be doing RD work outpatient for the ped subspecialty clinics, and then I was going to be the dietitian for the cystic fibrosis clinic. So again, a lot of similarities. I had a great background, but again, kind of just the same experiences, only on steroids, because Mayo Clinic was such a larger institution and there were just greater opportunities for things like academia and research and all of that. Several years go by and COVID rolls around, right? And I was practicing through COVID, granted, not to the extent that anybody who was patient facing, say in the ICU, had to deal with, but still, I felt a lot of stress related to working full time during the pandemic. And this is what really just kind of was like the final straw for me. I was feeling a little bit burnt out and I just was wanting a change. Those earlier feelings of wanting more, feeling as though I wasn't really compensated enough for the amount of work that I was doing, just really was the catalyst for me applying to PA school. So at the time, Mayo Clinic was just rolling out a physician assistant program, and in the first stages or the first iteration of the program, current employees sort of had this pseudo unofficial leg up, if you will. So I was like, yes, heck yes, this is my perfect opportunity to apply. I kind of like slapped together a personal statement and put together a CV like over a weekend. To be quite honest with you, I didn't put enough thought into it. And I apply and I just kind of throw caution to the wind and see what happens. Well, several months roll by and I find out I get rejected. And that was a huge gut punch and kind of hit to my ego, I realized. And it was a great opportunity in hindsight because it served as this opportunity for me to really self-reflect and take time to think, what do I really want out of my career? And it was just underscored for me that I indeed wanted to go to PA school. So I decided to apply for a second time. And this second time, I utilized the classic CASPA system for application and just went all in. And I devoted every ounce of my energy toward applying. I was actually furloughed at the time because it was during the pandemic that I was applying. So it was just a great time, I guess, to really dive into giving it my all to this application. And then obviously I'm sitting here talking to you as a certified physician assistant. So obviously I got in, and that's not really what I want to talk about in this video, but I want to kind of take some time to highlight some of the feelings that I was going through as a dietitian who had, several years of experience as a clinician under her belt, who was deciding, I want to commit fully to going back to grad school, which is no small feat to undertake, you know, to go from having a full-time salary to then becoming a full-time student because you're not allowed to work during PA school. It was a lot to think about. And if you're watching this and you're thinking similarly to the way I was, it's definitely something important to take into account. You know, where you are in life. Are you married? Do you have children? Do you have debt from your undergraduate program? What are your finances like currently? Where do you live? And are there PA schools in your area? Or would you have to commute a long distance to go to PA school? All those things are really important to look at. But I guess I just want to take some time to explain the reasons for me for why I decided to go. I'm just going to be honest and say that the number one reason that I went, apart from that feeling of wanting more clinically, wanting to expand my scope of practice, being able to offer more to my patients. I mean, that goes without saying, we're all caring people in the field of healthcare, but the number one reason aside from that is financial. I was finding out that the only way to increase my salary at the time, luckily the institution I worked for had a ladder system for compensation for registered dietitians, so that if you did go on to get a specialty certification or if you went on to get a master's degree, you would get compensated more. But it was only, you know, a few $1,000s more per year. And I thought, wow, the cost of a master's degree for dietetics to go within the same field is, I don't know, gonna be at least 20, 30 grand for 2 years. So why not commit more financially to go to PA school, which is the exact same time frame, maybe a little bit more, because my program was about 2.5 years, 28 months to be specific. But why not just commit fully and then have the opportunity to double my salary? And that's exactly what happened. I've now been able to more than double my salary as a first-time PA, working in the field as opposed to my dietitian salary. So finances had a huge amount to do with it. And I just don't think enough dietitians and PAs are talking about that. Number two, you know, I can't really speak from the feelings of not being respected or, you know, not being seen as an equal team player within the eyes of the multidisciplinary team, because I really did feel that way. But in my conversations with a lot of dietitians, I do feel that that is a pretty common theme, unfortunately. And aside from the financial aspect, that feeling of inadequacy or imposter syndrome, or not feeling as though, you know, you're giving enough when you're just giving it your all in your own eyes, is something that is pretty common. So I think that's another reason for maybe wanting to seek alternative career paths or to want to reinvent yourself. And then the last reason that I wanted to share with you for wanting to go back to PA school was that feeling of job security and the ability to lateralize more seamlessly and more easily. When I was going through the job search as a dietitian from the very beginning, it was extremely hard to find a job. My hometown of Des Moines, Iowa, I honestly got one of the only dietitian jobs at the time, and I felt very lucky, but I didn't feel like there was as much opportunity. Granted, things have changed somewhat in the past 5 years, but I just personally wasn't seeing as much opportunity for being able to move around in different positions. Say, if I had found a romantic partner and wanted to move with them to a different state, you know, would I be able to have that same job security that PA provides? And that was a huge reason for wanting to go back to school to have that. And then again, talking about the lateralization of the PA career, being able to switch specialties if one doesn't work out, being able to have a primary job and then moonlight in other areas was extremely appealing to me, apart from the other reasons that I mentioned previously. So obviously this conversation is a lot more nuanced than I'm making it in just this one video. And if you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer any and all. Hopefully you are feeling a little bit more empowered and excited after watching this video if you are indeed in my shoes that I was in, you know, several years ago. It is very possible for dietitians to reinvent themselves, go on to PA school to still maintain a foot in that clinical realm. And I'm really excited I did it, really happy. And yeah, I didn't really look back ever since I made that switch. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and thanks for watching.